And he opens the door and he's like, "Hey!" And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Let me just ask you one last thing. Did you just fart in my bedroom?"
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Bad Times Good Stories podcast. My name is Joe Flanders. I hope that you are having a divine week. I know that I am. I hope if you were celebrating Mother's Day, it was a nice day for you. And I'm really excited to share this week's episode with comedian and actress Catey. I'd never met her before. She is a delight. I had a really fun time talking with her about the hairier living situations that she encountered when she first moved to LA. She was 18, didn't know anybody, and found herself in some interesting predicaments, I'll say. It was a lot of fun. It was a great conversation, and I hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, give us that 5-star rating on iTunes. Please just do it. It helps us book guests and makes me feel good about myself. So if you listen, just tap the 5 stars. Just do it, please. You can also check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to the Patreon page, should you like to support the show financially. Boy, that would be dandy. And you can email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. And let me know what you think of the show. If you have a bad time that made a good story, you can share it with me. I'd love to read it. And maybe I'll just read it on the air. That's all I've got for now. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Catey.
But they are lovely, and I wish they were lighting us right now. But
boy, that's something to think about for future episodes.
I think you should.
Just candlelight episodes? Yeah, just invite people to my apartment who I've never met before. Now, here we are. Would you like some wine?
I always like that. That'd be cool.
Good to know. All right. I think I'm going to try that one week. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yep.
What's happening?
Happy to be here. Not much. I just came from work.
Where do you work?
I work with seniors. I'm a caregiver.
Oh, like old senior. I thought you were like
super seniors.
Seniors in high school.
No.
Super seniors.
No.
Okay.
Super senior
Okay,
citizens.
that's very cool. What do you do with them?
Help them.
Yeah.
I'm not like a formal certified caregiver, but I'm more of an assistant that has a lot of experience with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, and I can take the heat.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be challenging work at times.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. But it's also really rewarding.
I'm sure.
Because it's actually very hard to find good people to work with seniors because they are easily taken advantage of and abused. And it's fun for me. It keeps me humble. And I get to cheer them up and take them go play bingo. And, it's actually very... chill in some ways, but then there's like they become very ornery and they can be very aggressive at times, and just kind of dodging that, and it's helped me.
What led you to doing that for work?
Honestly, I just looking for work. I had gotten fired from a job. I was working in a hotel, and
what did you do?
I was consistently 1 minute late.
Really?
Yeah. 1 minute late. I wouldn't budge on it because
I'll show up when you want me to, but not quite.
Exactly.
That's the perfect fuck you amount. It's just yeah, I could have been here. You just wait around at the check-in machine or whatever, and just wait for it to be a minute late.
Well, there was this parking garage that was up the hill from the hotel, and you had to take a shuttle down, and that was that extra minute. And because of that inconvenience for me, I wasn't going to budge on that extra minute. And they fired me, and I cried.
Really?
Yeah, I cried.
Wow. Were you surprised? Did you think you'd just get away with it?
No, I knew. I knew what I was doing, but still, when you're there in the room with two people telling you that, you're done. And
That's such a petty reason to fire somebody. Did they
That's
just
what I
consider it
felt.
like insubordinate or something? Like a
they wanted me out. The owner liked me a lot. And they wanted me out, man. They knew I was just taking too many privileges at that point. And
so that's what they got you with.
that's what they got me with.
Wow. Well, now you're doing much more noble work, right? So it
Yeah.
all worked out.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah, sure.
Sort of. I make my own hours, so that's cool.
Oh, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the way that I got into it was I answered an ad on Craigslist from a little old lady who wanted to write a book, and I started working with her, and she, they're crazy at a certain age.
Yeah.
You just
My
they're
grandfather
nuts.
had dementia.
Yeah.
I get it.
And anyways, I quit her job because she was bipolar and she started to refuse to pay me, but then I was referred, and then I just got into this network of old
Elderly.
folks.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's not a bad network to be in. I work for an elderly woman in Beverly Hills. I do her work on her computer. And I don't know. So I was drinking. I pulled out this coffee mug and it says Duke Grandpa. This was given to me by my best friend as an apology gift for dating my ex-girlfriend behind my back. So it just got me thinking, have you ever received or given an apology gift?
Oh, wow. No.
No? Neither side of it?
I mean, an apology gift, not like related to a breakup.
Or anything.
Um,
I'm putting you on the spot here.
You know what? I'm actually really bad at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
My mom didn't teach me social norms. I was kind of coddled, and my mom was a hermit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
She worked from home, and she was very antisocial, and I was very social. My dad was out of the picture at the time. He was living somewhere else, and I didn't learn the
Cues
things
like
that
that?
social cues,
Nice.
all of that's gone.
Well, one could argue that I did learn those things, and I couldn't think of one time I've given an apology gift. So,
All right.
so look at that. You're not alone.
I don't feel so bad now. That was for cheating on.
That was for lying to me about dating my ex-girlfriend behind my back. And I had my ex-girlfriend on the podcast, and we dove into it.
Oh, wow.
It's a long story. I'll tell you which episode it is later if
Okay.
you're curious. But it was one of my favorite episodes because I broke up with her the same day she met my family. So that was really fucked up in college. And then years later, they totally destroyed me by lying and everything else because I wasn't over her yet. It was a whole mess.
You guys are all cool now?
Yeah, now we're all cool.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm not cool with any of my exes. There's no
Well,
friendship there.
She hasn't talked to me in like 4 months, and I've reached out a couple times. So maybe it was, short lasting. I don't know. I wish her all the best. I hope she's doing well.
Well, you got a cool mug out of it. So
Yeah, I did. Kind of the ironic, fun gift. I'll never be a Duke Grandpa, but yeah.
Duke University,
Yes.
obviously, right? All right.
So, speaking of maybe not picking up on social graces or gifts or however you want to phrase it with your hermit mother, what was it like moving here? I hear you had some interesting roommate situations.
Yeah.
How was that
So,
segue?
well, it was good. I liked
stretch?
it. It was
I
a
don't know.
little bumpy. It
was a little bumpy. It
I was
was.
like
It was
on
a
the.
little-
I was on it. Yeah. When I first moved out here, I was 18, and
You were coming from Vegas?
coming from Vegas,
Okay.
just packed up a little car and was like, "Hey, did it!" And and I met this girl who. Family was really well off, and we were both going to go to Santa Monica College, and we were stoked, and she was really cool, and we got along. And a couple months into it, she started bringing home much older men, like 40 or 50 year old men that she was meeting at the
Okay.
Coffee Bean.
At the Coffee Bean.
At the Coffee Bean.
Interesting. Okay. And you guys are both like 18?
Yeah, we were both 18.
Okay. So that's troubling.
Yeah, and she was an artist. That's what she said she was. But I caught her one day painting over. She was stenciling, basically. She would take out of a picture book. She would put a paper on it, stencil it, and then paint it in. That's the kind of person she was. She was just like exploring in these very weird
I don't want to
ways.
generalize, but is this one of those people who says they're an artist because they have like infinite backing behind them and they can afford to just sort of prance about and call themselves
She was
an
a
artist?
prancing.
Okay. She was a prancing.
She was
prancing
a
into the coffee bean.
prancing into the coffee bean and taking
Structured
names.
stuff. Okay. Okay. All right. So,
Yeah.
please go on. I'm fascinated by this. What kind of
Well,
man?
anyway, his name was Jonathan, and he was Australian,
Oh,
and he looked just like Jim Morrison. He was hot. He
Okay.
was really hot,
Okay.
and so that one I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
This is okay. Can I cuss?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
To be clear, she was taking these men home to then have sex with? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh,
all right.
yeah.
Just to
Yeah.
clarify.
And I'm pretty easygoing, to be honest. I'm open minded, and that wasn't a big deal to me. A few of them were cool, and then they just kind of started getting weird, and I started to feel unsafe because of just the sheer amount
Is
of
this like
people coming in.
a couple times a week?
A couple times a week, yeah.
Couple times a day?
and straight up strangers. And
Oh, God.
and then one day I came home from class, and there's a man on the living room couch, and he looked very familiar, but also like a very dirty Johnny Depp. And
Okay.
and I went into my room and I kind of processed it, and she wasn't there, and there was like a little bit of wine in my room. There was and I hadn't been drinking, and red flags just started going off, and then suddenly I realized that guy was the dude that stands out in front of the CVS down the street
Asking for money.
asking for money, and I remember seeing him, have conversations with himself, so he was obviously a little,
Hey! That's enough. That's enough. Stop it.
What's her name?
Penny.
Penny.
Yep.
That was my dog's name
Really?
growing up. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Penny and Sophia, both dachshunds.
Oh, I love dachshunds. Mm-hmm. I love them. Were they the brown ones or the black? Yeah,
They were brown. Yeah.
Okay, so the guy from CVS who asks
Yeah.
for money and probably has some sort of bipolar personality, schizophrenia, something.
Yeah.
He's in your living room and your roommate is not there.
And
what
she's
you said?
not there. Yeah.
Okay.
And so then I cut the lease and I moved out.
What did you do in that? Did you ask him to leave or anything? Or did you just like go in your room and lock the door? or-
Yeah, I was just in my room hyperventilating.
Oh, okay. What was his response when you came in? Was he just like, hey?
Yeah. Oh yeah, very casual. Just like made himself at home. His feet were on the coffee table. He was watching, I think, Maury, and
Fine program.
and yeah, little old me. I cut the lease way early, and I feel really bad about the girl that I found to move in. She was a nursing student at UCLA, and I didn't tell her anything. I just
Ooh,
oh yeah.
yeah.
But she
you were
was
18.
strong-minded, and she was a bit older, and so I think she probably handled herself okay.
How did that conversation go with the floating roommate or the floating artist, the wandering artist?
It didn't go so well.
No?
No.
Had you talked to her about this before? Like, hey,
No, I didn't know how to communicate.
stop it. When hadn't really acquired the communication skills yet.
I didn't know. I thought, oh, it's fine, and then it was just like run,
Yeah.
basically.
So like 0 to 100.
0 to 100.
okay.
We never talked again. She's married now. She's riding around the country with her husband in a bus, like
Living that dream. Yep.
living that dream.
Yep.
And yeah,
Did you tell her why you were moving out?
no.
It's so funny because you had a very sympathetic point of view that I'm sure a rational person would have understood, but you were just like, gotta go.
Yeah.
Look, I did a lot of dumb things too at 18, so, but just laughing about it now. That's really funny. Just like, gotta go.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, hey, I'm gonna go live alone, and that'll be a lot better.
That's what this city does, though. Like with how you handled like getting the replacement roommate, you just get to this point where you just like got to get out of whatever the situation you're in is, and so it's like, well, they'll figure it out. Because it's like if you're totally honest about it, you probably wouldn't get them, and then you'd have to look harder.
I don't think anyone in the housing industry here is ever honest about the living situation that they're either offering or entering into.
My favorite word, this is kind of tangential, but is like when I've been in the process of moving, which has happened seemingly every year that I've lived here. When anytime I see a listing that says cozy, I'm just like, all right, so that's going to be like a closet. Cozy is key for tiny.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. That's what I've learned. So, okay.
Free spirit, avoid that.
Yeah.
That's
That's basically just an excuse to be an asshole.
Yeah.
No, I just kind of do my own thing. And yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I don't want that. Not at all.
Yeah. Just an asshole.
So, I mean, to be 18 and it seems like, so was your upbringing sort of just like, were you just not around? Like, was it going from were you in like Vegas or were you sort of on the out?
Yeah, nobody lives on the Strip or even
immediately
around the Strip.
Yeah.
It's about 30 minutes out and, it's just a little suburb of Vegas. And I grew up as an only child. My sister was 19 years older than I was, so she was never in the house. Yeah. So yeah, it was basically like an only child. Parents divorced around 11, so things were really tense in the house. And then it was mostly me and my mom, and me sort of figuring things out on my own with very little guidance.
So then it probably didn't seem like a huge stretch to be 18 and move to LA by yourself, if you kind of had been on your own in a lot of ways throughout those years anyway.
I thought I could do it, but hindsight, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that just had to be so overwhelming, and just like moving out. And I mean, like, did you have like friends or any, like, did you have anywhere to stay or nothing? Where'd you go after you?
I just rented like a little tiny studio. Mm-hmm. And luckily I had, some money saved up before I moved out. And that was what I ended up using just to get out and get a new place.
Okay.
But going home was not at all even an option like that. And having parents help or anything like that was just a big no. And so it was like, well, I'll just carry all this weight on my shoulders and figure it out and have, a mental breakdown.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
And that was when you were living, and just to clarify, you moved out here to do acting and okay.
Yeah. The negotiation was to go to school, but, that was around 2008 and everything, the big crash happened. Right. Parents lost their jobs and I was just like, I'm not going to accumulate all this debt. I know what I wanted to do. I had a manager who was really bad. I was like, I can do this. But I couldn't do it.
Okay. So you're living by yourself and then you basically just have a nervous breakdown? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
what happened?
I was isolated. Yeah. I was in a studio and I knew nobody and I was working, but I didn't really connect with most of those people. I don't connect with very many people, to be honest. Especially at that age, I was so shy. I was afraid of everything, and isolation is terrible for your mental health. And I just remember, it gets gnarly, but I had an upstairs neighbor who would just hear all the things that were going on in my apartment, and he would bring down food every night because he obviously heard what was going on, which was a lot of
crying.
Yeah, and bulimia and it's like gnarly stuff. Yeah. Don't isolate yourself ever.
Was that something that you dealt with before, or did it hit you while you were here?
It hit me there, and it wasn't about weight loss, and I don't know that it was about that. It was just about not loving myself, and all just putting too much stress on myself. Mm-hmm. All that pressure, it started to just kind of well up.
I've heard people say that control is a reason. They say like you can control nothing out here in particular, and so this was like a way where like you were controlling, like you had something that you were in control of, even though it was really unhealthy.
I've heard that, and No, I've heard that, and I think it is for a lot of people. Mine was kind of about hurting myself, punishing myself, because I didn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I was lost.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I lived by myself for like a year, and it was a nightmare. It was just like, it was in like probably like a 12-unit building, and like there was this girl that I was super into, and I had moved into this place basically to just like start over from a disastrous relationship, not even relationship. So I was trying to just like pick myself up and this, and then there was a girl that I was into, and then there was another guy, and like the three of us hung out a lot, and then I was just like trying to play it cool in my way, and I remember there was like a smoke pit that we would like smoke cigarettes at in the back or whatever, and there was like, I guess she texted me like, hey, wanna meet you in the pit in a minute or two? And I was like, okay. And then I just like watched from my window, and I was like, I'm just gonna keep her waiting. That's gonna be my move. Like trying to not be accessible or whatever the hell. Stupid. Anyway, and then I was like feeling bad but good about myself about this choice I've made. And then the other guy just comes out, and then I just watch them start making out. They are now married.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you ever recreate that in any of your stories?
I haven't yet, but I need to.
Hilarious.
Because I've got what I had coming. But, I mean, then I wasn't sure what I remember like being out there with the guy not long after, just the two of us. And I was just like, so I'm thinking about asking Caitlin out. That's not a real name.
Good.
And then he was just like, really? I was like, yeah, I don't know if you like, we have a connection or something. I don't know why I volunteered. I already knew that they were a thing, or at least something.
Because you had seen them.
I'd seen them making out,
and you said that.
Yeah,
you were delirious.
I was. I was just like completely delusional. And then I just inserted myself into a very awkward situation because he was a nice guy. And he didn't want to he didn't know that I knew, so he was trying to just like, well, I don't know, maybe I don't know if she's like, your type, or she's looking like he was saying all these things, and then I oddly just got pleasure out of seeing him squirm about it. I don't know. I was in a bad place.
Yeah, and was it the manipulation that you were getting? Like,
I think so, because he won.
Yeah,
they won. They were together, and I was just like sitting there, like, oh. And my place didn't have any sort of air ventilation or circulation. It was just July, and I was just like 98 degrees in there, and that was a rough year.
That's so funny that was your darkness, is like playing people, and like watching them from afar.
Yeah, not quite comparable to what you had dealt with, but there was also lots of crying and sadness and everything else. But So then what? So finally, did you just have enough? You're like, I gotta live with people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
I'm so lucky to have snapped out of it, and then I was so broke, and I found a place in the valley. The room was like $400 a month, and it was with 5 guys.
Okay.
All of them really weird, artsy guys. But I had this. Sorry.
That's okay.
I had my own little kind of corner and like a little apartment off of the house. And bathroom, and everything was like closed off, and so they all shared the main house.
Yeah.
And that bathroom, and I had my own little cove, and yeah.
Not good.
It was good. I mean, it was good for me because they were great people.
Oh, okay.
They were weirdos, but they
Sure.
were great people. One of them, had prairie dogs, illegal prairie dogs, which are vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, it was sad because he had them in like this tiny cage, and they're like meant to run the prairies.
Yeah, that's the name. Yes.
And
Not called cage dogs.
yeah, they're vicious and weird.
Did they attack you?
One attacked my dad.
Really?
Yeah, my dad was sitting down on the floor, and his name was Mugen, which is like an anime character. And
Your dad or the prairie dog?
my dad.
I like asking stupid questions.
Oh no, that's John. But yeah, Mugen, when I saw him just kind of get this crazy look in his eye, and he dug his feet into the carpet and just went straight for my dad's crotch.
Go.
Because he was sitting kind of like cross-legged, and he kicked him. And it was fine. They're pretty durable, and he kind of just flew across the room, and that was that. I'm like, Dad, this is what's going on.
I'm in Hollywood.
I'm in Hollywood.
Oh man! So you said they're weird. Obviously, the prairie dog thing is one thing. How else did that manifest itself?
They were good people though, but one of them he was a special effects artist, so he made monsters, and so there were always monsters and people coming into the house to do makeup, and our whole garage area was just plaster and molds, and it was cool. And he ended up going into that show, Face Off, I think it is.
Oh yeah,
it was a special effects show, and he did well there. But
cool.
yeah, that was George, and he always had his toenails painted. And one time I fell in front of him, and I wasn't wearing any underwear. All right, I'll just say it.
Put it out there.
Okay,
yeah.
And I wasn't trying to be a skis, but it just happened to be a bad day for me. And and I also hadn't shaved in a really long time because I was coming out of depression, and I just was like, fuck it. And I fell in front of him, and all of his workshop people, there were women there, they're all just working in the shed. And I tripped over a mold, and just him, he was the only one that saw, but I fell and my skirt opened up, and he was his face was like pure horror. He makes monsters for a living. Like, he like studied dead bodies, and when he saw my vagina, he was so horrified, and yeah.
Was that ever addressed? He
couldn't talk about it. He never actually was the same towards me again.
Really?
He was always a little weird.
Now, were you mortified in that moment too?
Oh, absolutely. It was mostly because of his reaction. If he'd have laughed it off, I'd laugh it off.
Right.
But the fact that I couldn't, I'd get this little look from him, every once in a while. And I'm like, bro.
That's a good point, because it goes from just like, that was awkward and embarrassing, to like, what the fuck? I'm not a monster.
Yeah. It was, I don't know what was so deeply, deeply awkward about it for him, because it's just, I think he just was shocked to see that I had a bush. I think that it was just scary for him, because he didn't see me as that type of person. I think we make these things up in our minds when we meet somebody, and I don't know, every once in a while something will come out and it'll just shock you.
Do you size up people's pubes in your head when you meet them?
Maybe a guy that I'm interested in, for sure. Maybe it'll cross my mind. Wonder what he's got.
What's the ideal pube situation for a guy you're into? I asked the hard-hitting questions here.
I honestly, I don't want any like a naked mole rat, but I also don't want too much. So just a little bit, but I don't want it too manicured or anything like that. That's too much.
Sure. That seems like a reasonable request.
Because then I have to be held to those standards.
Right. And then, we don't want that.
No. But
okay. All right. So you're flashing people. You're living with prairie dogs. It sounds like for the most part, these were just like, this time you were what, like 19, 20?
Yeah.
So these kind of sound just like the people you would interact with in college or something.
It was kind
just
of like
the oddballs, but like harmless for the most part. So that's good.
All of them, just huge geeks, but sweethearts. Nothing bad to say about any of them, except for one guy that we had rent temporarily, who was, he was a heroin addict, and that was a bad night.
Yeah,
it was tough.
What happened?
Well, one of the guys couldn't afford the room temporarily. His name was Ian. He's a sweetheart, but he had to leave, and so we just went on Craigslist. And I wasn't there to coordinate things because I just, knew how to read people, and they didn't. It was like, oh, okay, cool, come on in, basically. And this guy said he was like, a technician or a software engineer or whatever. And then he got in, and that same night, one of the roommates knocked on my door, very naive, has never done a drug or drank alcohol in his life. And he was like, Kelly, I think this guy is, he's playing video games. It's way too loud in there. And we got to tell him to be quiet. And so I go and up to the door, and he's going, awooga, awooga, and he's like bouncing off, and I'm like, no, he's on meth.
Oh God.
I mean, he was like freaking out in there. It was so sweet that he just thought he was playing video games, but I immediately knew it was like something gnarly going on in there. And so we called the police, which took 5 hours for them to come out to Van Nuys, where we were at the time. And we all just kind of sat in the front yard and waited for them to come. But he started walking around the house and like slamming stuff, and he was picking up knives, and he was like throwing shit. And what was crazy was when the police came and got him, he had been on uppers all night, speed. And then right as the police got there, he was taking heroin to come down. And when they took him, went into his room, and there was just like needles everywhere. There was candy, there was ice cream, there was his sobriety chips were in there, pictures of his family. And so he had just been out, he had just gotten out, and he got to LA and just, he lost it.
Apart.
Yeah. And we felt really bad about it. And then we just left his stuff outside for him to pick up the next day, because they didn't take him, they took him to the hospital.
Oh, okay.
And, yeah, and then
you really grow up quick when you know what I mean? Like when you, because I just viewing this from like my maturity level at the age that we're talking about with you, and like I was in the confines of like art school and this little bubble, and like I can't imagine processing like real life shit like you had to do at that age.
Yeah.
I mean that had to just like, you probably grew up pretty quick, I mean, God damn.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was really like hardened. I was just like, I'm just doing it all, I can handle anything. And ultimately that was fine. It was stuff that I wasn't aware of that was, ultimately the hardest.
Like what?
Well, like being so young out there. I wasn't processing that, but that kind of stuff was pretty easy. It was like, being alone, feeling like I didn't have anybody. That was the hard stuff that I didn't acknowledge.
Right. Okay.
And feeling kind of lost without real steps, to go toward.
Well, that's the maddening, and I've talked about it before, but like the maddening thing about pursuing anything within the entertainment industry is that it's just not, there's no clear ladder. It's not like a lawyer where you like go to law school, and I'm not saying it's easy, but you go to law school, then you do your, I don't even know the terms, but then you work your way up. It's like a clearly defined thing. You
get your Johnsons, and then you get your Berries, and then you get your, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, chasing this stuff is just, I don't know. At times it's maddening for anybody. So much less.
Well, it's a scam.
Well, yeah, there's that too.
It's a huge scam, people. I mean, if you don't know anybody and you don't have money, you just better pray to God you're really, really lucky, and create your own stuff. That's
Did you get scammed?
Way. Yeah, I mean,
scammed is
yeah, of course. You're just you got to get new headshots. You got to go to this class. You got to do this. It's like this never-ending cycle. I was, you read scripts that are so bad. You're like, what's going on here? But okay, I got to go, and then you do it, and you feel like you've been violated.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, so how much longer did you live in Van Nuys after the heroin incident?
I lived with them for a while. I lived with them for probably like 3 years.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, they were all great. I didn't know that boys pee out windows. Whenever possible.
Some boys.
It was a house, so they could do that.
Sure.
But I would walk around the house and just be like, what's this awful stench? And everything would be kind of yellow around the house. And I didn't know until way after that they were just all waking up and peeing out the window.
Because who's got the time to walk to the bathroom? It's a whole ordeal.
I guess.
No, it's not. It's not at all. It's very easy to do. So living with five guys, was there ever any like sexual tension or anything?
There was
like
one that I later ended up dating.
Oh, really?
Later, like much later, which was dumb. It's just kind of incestuous when you're in this small world.
Right.
You know, those are the only people that you see around, and then you'll date somebody who's like not for you at all.
Yeah.
And that'd probably hurt his feelings if he saw that. But, you know, I think he's married now.
Oh, then he's probably okay.
He's fine.
Hopefully. How did that manifest itself? Did you guys, like, who made the first move?
I think he did. Yeah, he did. And I was just kind of like, whatever. This is easy. That's why people do it.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, well, I know he's not a psychopath.
Yeah. Well, he was attractive, and he was really smart and really nice and you know, not for me ultimately, but yeah,
Sure.
just kind of like, fuck it.
Why not? So where did your living adventures go after you left those guys?
Well, I left them because the house, the entire time we had lived there, the landlord was actually in the process of he was bankrupt, and the house was, what do you call it when it's
Foreclosed?
not foreclosed? I mean, it had been foreclosed for a long time. The bank was in the process of taking it the entire time we lived there. And so he wasn't making payments. He was just taking our rent for himself, which was
Yeah.
fine. I mean, we got to live there for super cheap for a really long time. And then mushrooms started to grow under my bed because there was a leak.
Oh.
And that's when I moved out.
Yeah.
We all moved out. And yeah, from there, I actually lived with one of the guys that I was dating. And because I needed a place to stay, even though I kind of was over it at that point. And
That's always a great reason to move in with somebody.
listen, I'm a monster. All right.
Circumstances make these things happen sometimes, but
Which camera are you using? There's
all
a couple.
three.
Oh, wow.
That's your close-up cam.
Oh, really?
This is
Oh, I've been looking
two-shot.
at the wrong one then.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, and then after that,
What happened in that
I
one?
had a
What happened when you moved in with the guy you didn't really want to live with?
Well, we had a really bad breakup.
Mm.
The breakup was basically
If you don't want to go into it. I ask questions, but anytime you don't want to answer anything, that's fine. It's just for the sake of being vulnerable, I just ask really personal questions.
yeah. No, he's a bad snorer. And one morning, I just couldn't take it anymore. And I said, listen, we're done. All right, we're done. I can't do it anymore. And he started storming around the house. And he was stomping his feet. And he was like, God damn it. And he was just like so mad.
Yeah.
And I was really nervous about it. And I was like feeling all anxious. And my stomach gets really upset when I'm anxious.
Yeah.
And so I'm gathering my things and my stomach's freaking out, and I walk out into the street. I'm in the street, and he's storming around the house. We're both crying. I'm like, fuck you, you know, and I'm in the street, and he opens the door and he's like, hey, and I'm like, what? And he's like, let me just ask you one last thing. Did you just fart in my bedroom? Did you just break up with me? Break up with me and then fart in my room is like a fuck you? And it was hilarious. So I started laughing. You know, we both did because it was just really funny. Because I did.
You did. One last gas for the road.
It wasn't like malicious. It was accidental, but he thought it was malicious. Like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to really leave him a stinker.
A curse on his house.
Yeah.
God, that must have been, I mean, it sounds like you were both able to just laugh at the absurdity of it. But all of the tears and everything else just spawned from his snoring. And I'm sure there were other reasons why, and that was just the thing that put it off. But that's why I love doing this, because that must have been so shitty in the moment. Just, you know, But when you laugh, you can laugh about it because it was snoring. And I hope my girlfriend doesn't hear this because I'm not a great snorer. I'm a pretty bad snorer.
I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she does it, Joe. I don't know how anybody does it.
Well, apparently she just nudges me and then I roll over and then I'm fine.
I've heard it is just a minor adjustment that needs to be made, but I wasn't willing to find out.
Well, we've had our. She's very patient with me because I've gone through phases of like talking in my sleep, and like one time I just like, not forcefully I don't think, but I was just holding her wrist down while I was asleep, and then she was asleep, and then that affected her dreams, and then she woke up and my hand was like like holding her wrist. One time I was just like, shut the fuck up. Shut up! And I was sleeping. That scared the shit out of her.
Yeah, that would really be scary.
Yeah. One time I was just going, ah. For like a minute, apparently. I'm a mess. She's very patient.
Just watch out one day. Yeah. It's going to happen right when you wake up, too. It's just going to go, listen, I've had it. I can't take it. It's too scary.
And then when I leave, like I'll go back to Ohio for like a week or two to visit people, and then she gets all excited. But then I think oddly, not having those weird sounds keeps her awake because she's used to having so I've just ruined her entire. She never sleeps well now, and it's all my fault.
Oh, now she's just like, oh, I need like a weird ambient noise.
Yeah, exactly. If only those sound machines would just make high pitched weird noises.
Exactly. You could record one for her.
I could. That'll be our anniversary.
Do
gift.
it. That would be great.
Just like 30-minute loops of me snoring and making all. Anyway. Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you're not living with him.
No.
You're done with snoring. Mm-hmm. And moving on to better things.
Yeah, way better things. Things are great now. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so when I was a kid, when I was 16, I had worked on a movie because I always knew what I wanted to do, and I was working on this film, and I was a background, but they hired me on as a stand-in, and so I got to work for the film for the summer, and I met this guy who was much older than me, but like never was creepy, or I didn't even, think of it as like him. He was more of a friend and just like a really nice person. And he had been out in LA and I had never really been in touch with him. But now I was more of an adult, and I could reach out. And he knew a girl who he worked for the director of that movie, and she was his assistant. Mm-hmm. And she was looking for a roommate in Hollywood Hills.
Wow.
And
moving on up.
I was like, I am getting this spot. And honestly, at first, I don't think they wanted to give it to me. Mm. But then I met the whole house, and majority ruled.
Nice.
And I won him over. I wrote him this long email about how, I'm really cool, but also not, I like to party, but not too much. Like, I'm cool if you... want to offer me pancakes at 4 a.m, but just make sure it's on a weekend, kind of like thing. And it worked out. And
this is like an adult college admissions submission here,
right.
But to be accepted into the apartment, the house.
Yeah, the house. It's hilarious and haunted. And
nice.
And yeah, I live with 5 women now. We've lived together for almost 5 years.
Oh, and that's where you've been ever since.
Yeah, it's like family. Yeah.
You said it's haunted?
Yeah.
Have you experienced some things?
Every night at 1:22 a.m., mm-hmm. our phone ghost dials itself, and it goes through 3 ring cycles. And when you pick it up, it's just our number calling mm-hmm. itself, and you pick it up, and it's just totally silent. And it goes through 3 of those cycles. And we finally got it to stop because we changed our carrier. But nice. That happened for about 4 years. It's just constant every night. And that was, scary. Sure. But apparently there's a man in a top hat that a few of them have seen.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is he wearing pants or anything, or is it just a top hat?
He's just a big man.
Just a naked man with a top hat?
No, he's wearing a suit, I think.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen him. But I don't like to walk around the house at night, and I don't like to be there when nobody's there because it's just really scary.
Yeah. Okay.
So
alarming.
Yeah, one of the other girls could probably tell you a good ghost story, but I personally have not seen the ghost. But I do know that Clara Bow lived there at our house. She was an old actress back in the day, and a guy died on our patio from a coke overdose. Which has probably happened all over Hollywood.
In the city, yeah. I never like to think about what happened in the previous places I've lived. Because I'm like, nothing good's going to come from that. I just like to imagine it was just like some sweet, charming couple who had a kid, and then they outgrew the place, and they had to move into the suburbs.
Right.
Well, that probably wasn't the case. I once lived in a place that was owned by Slash.
Oh, wow.
And it was in Hollywood. I was like, this is the most Hollywood thing ever. I never met him.
Hell,
he had some lackey that would pick up the checks. But if I was late, Slash
really?
would come for you.
I would probably be late a lot.
And I was late, yes. No, it was some delightful little French man who would come. And, Boys, come on. I don't know what accent that was. But,
Our landlord now is French. He's crazy. Yeah,
nice.
It's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess this happens everywhere, but it's just like, I think it does. It's just it's just such a like Russian roulette of who you end up living with out here. Like I was lucky enough to have like friends from college who I'd already lived with, and like I've always lived with people I know, and then now my girlfriend. But like, yeah, you just end up in some really hairy situations.
Oh, it was hairy.
Yeah. Yep.
And so was I.
Yeah, it was set up there. I was like, we're gonna call back. That's what I'll call this episode: the hairiest of situations.
I did actually turn that into a joke later, but
good.
I changed the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, living with 5 women is totally different from living with 5 men.
Yeah. What's like the biggest difference?
And with the guys, there was never an argument. With the women, if there is an argument, all of a sudden, all of our, like, the octaves go up like 10 times.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what did you do? Well, what did you do? No, what did you do? And you just hear, like, if somebody's fighting downstairs, it's just like this high pitch, like, kind of squeak, because they don't want to actually get aggressive.
Right.
Because we all don't want to leave, you know, so we make sure that we make it work, but times do get tense. 2 of them are sisters. Okay. So they're, bonded for life, and there's no breaking that, know, and I'm just kind of maneuvering my way around the sisterhood, which is very strong. But we borrow each other's clothes. That's great. They
don't pee out of windows.
They don't pee out of windows. The walls are very thin. That is a difference. So I've heard a lot of what's going on in the other rooms.
Have you learned anything interesting?
No, just that I am lonely. Oh, okay. There was one, like, she was right above me, and now I'm in that room. But, her and her boyfriend were just doing what they do. And boy, were those walls thin. And, and I would just put my headphones on because I'm not, a creep. And
sure.
And tune it out. But, yeah, that's, I would say a prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I lay me down to bed as my friends have sex on top of my head. If I die before I wake, please don't let them know it was while I masturbate.
That's beautiful.
Please don't let them catch me while I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Even though I wasn't.
Did you learn that one in Sunday school? Yeah, that was
no, I made it
Lord's
up.
Prayer.
I made it up out of pure pain.
Sure. As all great comedy comes from, right? Yeah, it's weird when you get to that level with a roommate. Like, I overheard my roommate telling a girl to, stick it in his ass.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know what it was.
That's good.
Could have been a finger, could have been whatever. I don't know.
Wow.
And then, to each his own. That's fine.
Yeah, that's
but
a good
it's just,
move.
When you're getting breakfast the next morning in the kitchen and you're just kind of looking at them, and it's just like, now I know that you like ass play, and I didn't need to know that about you.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Does he know?
No, if he happens to listen to this episode, then he's the one, then he'll know. Yeah.
Oh, man. Isn't it awkward?
Yeah.
It's those things that you realize about another person that you didn't know, and then you see it, and then it's like, did I really know you?
Right. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. Now I know the real you.
Exactly.
I don't know how I feel about it. Well, wrapping up, I'm glad that the living situation is much better now. It seems like, I mean, congratulations on even still being here after all of that. I mean, you know, it's a lot of, I've seen a lot of people come and go in the 9 years I've lived out here. So, but you mentioned you had kind of a crazy like manager experience or something.
Yeah.
If you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. My first manager, he, you know, worked out of his apartment, and
Okay.
he was a big believer. You know, he was like, listen, he was really supportive, and being so young, I didn't know anybody, and I didn't have any resume or any kind of, you know, connections to actually meet a real manager. And he would, you know, just tell me to meditate for abundance, and he would constantly try to get me to go to these meditation ceremonies. He wasn't a creep at all. He was just, you know, delusional.
Sure.
And
there's a lot of that in the city.
And, you know, he told me to buy a bonsai tree, put it in my car.
Mr. Miyagi?
Basically, to put it in my car and to just like meditate for abundance, and to go to all the casting directors and bring them gifts, and which I did. Oh. But no, none of them wanted anything.
What kind of gifts did you give them?
Just little chocolates. It didn't work.
Your pillow. Put it under your pillow.
None of it worked. Oh. None of it. And he would put me out for roles that because I had dark hair at the time, and he was like, "Oh, you're ethnically ambiguous. This is great. We can use that as an angle to, you know, get you in the room," which obviously felt really bad, and it felt awkward. And I would just go in there with a bunch of actual, you know, Latino women, and just feel like a fraud, you know, and feel wrong about it. But you just go and you do it.
Right.
And
were they like me mugging you? At all? Or the other actresses kind of like, what the fuck is she doing?
They didn't need to.
Right.
I was so awkward and weird there, you know. Like,
well, and everyone's so self-involved and just focusing on their scene. They probably didn't even.
Yeah. No. Nothing was ever going to happen for me until later. Mm-hmm. You know, now looking back at it, I'm like, what was I doing? Why would I even put myself in that situation? You know, if the sentences are not even formatted properly, why are you going in there?
Oh, for the stuff you were auditioning for?
Yeah.
Was just awful?
Yeah. Oh, it was garbage.
Yeah.
It was absolute garbage.
I had a manager for like 4 years who was a very sweet woman, but she basically just became like my life coach. I would go see her once a week. We'd just talk about my issues with girls I was dating or wanted to date, or my frustrations about life. Like, and it just got to this point where she got me one audition, and it was this is when I was doing Average Joe, and the part was just average guy. I was like, well, sure, I guess that's fitting. It was like a 2-line thing on Community, and there was no content. Apparently it was like a dream sequence or something, and there was like a comet coming at me. And so I just thought average guy, he's probably not like that energetic or something. And so I just like, you know, it was my first time on the CBS Radford lot, and I'm like walking around like, yeah, all right, finally something's happening. And I just like, you know, like, oh no, it's coming for me. And then the guy was just like, can you do it again with energy? And I was like, oh, sure, yeah. And then I did it again, and he was like, oh, all right. That was it, you know. And that's just how it goes. You spend an hour getting there, and then you're there for 30 seconds. Really, that's the ideal case when you're not waiting.
Yeah, and you leave.
Yeah,
having no dignity at all.
I blew it. That was my shot. I was that close. It's a maddening thing, you know. But that was the only thing audition she ever got me or anything.
Oh wow! How long were you with her?
Like 4 years.
Oh.
And like I don't know, we like put different things together, but I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah. But she was like a good person.
Yeah, she was a great person.
Yeah,
and, like
that was...
really helped me like with just my life. But I think we both just got to this. Like, I think she folded her like management company or whatever, and because it was just like, do you know anybody? Like, what do we? Like, I don't.
How old were you?
She signed me before I'd even released Average Joe, so I was because one of the actresses on the show was also repped by her, so that actress showed the manager like the show and was like, oh, I love this. This guy seems really talented or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I was just stoked. I was like, yes. I'm going to sign with her right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I don't need to see credentials or anything else. Because I was just stoked. I was 23.
Oh, yeah. So you were super young. And
And then at 27, I was like, maybe it's time. And we just kind of like, we met up out because she had lost her office space. So we were just meeting outside of a
Not
Coffee
a red
Bean.
flag at all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, at that point it was because I just like, we sat outside of Coffee Bean. And I feel like we both were talking about projects and stuff. But I think we both knew this was the last time we'd see each other. And then it was. And then we just never spoke again.
Oh, wow. It's so weird.
It's a weird city.
We're just holding on to these streams. And
exactly. Yeah. Anyway. Well, it seems like things are going, like, are you happy with what you're doing now?
Yeah, I'm really happy. I'm really, really happy. I'm really excited about just creating stuff for myself.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very rewarding, and it's something that people can't take away from you. Mm-hmm. That's what I've learned with all my self-creation. Mm-hmm. So, and you do stand-up, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And are you performing regularly and all that?
Regularly around Noah. I should probably be pushing a lot more, and that's the plan.
Nice.
But I was kind of just figuring it out.
Sure.
For me, it was kind of just playing, and now I'm coming into realizing it's a real strength.
Well, you just got to get to a point where like you're happy with what your plan is instead of like jumping all in and then like not. Anyway, well, where can people find you on social media?
At Kelly Catey, Catey is the last name, and put out silly videos and memes and
all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, I'm glad that your living situation is solid and has been now for a while. Mm-hmm. And thanks for coming on and talking about it.
Hey, thanks for having me. It was fun.
Definitely.
That was the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that I did. It was just, she's awesome. I really enjoyed getting to know Kelly a little bit, and I hope you did too. That's all I've got for now. As always, you can check out badtimesgoodstoriespod.com for past episodes, merch, and a link to that Patreon page. Email me at badtimesgoodstoriespodcast@gmail.com. And that's it. That's all I've got. So, until next Wednesday, keep laughing.